Rocky Mountain elk, Wyoming natives and year-round residents. This is the valley known as Jackson Hole, winter range of one of the largest North American elk populations. The ancestors of this king of the deer family probably crossed over from Asia via the Bering Sea land bridge during the Pleistocene glacial period and arrived in central North America 25 to 35,000 years ago. We're gonna spend a year with these elk. Elk have inhabited Jackson Hole for at least 500 years, possibly as far back as the last glacial retreat 10,000 years ago. Bull elk have large branching antlers. Unlike horns, antlers are shed and regrown every year. The bulls drop their antlers one at a time in the spring. New ones begin growing from the bony extensions of the skull called pedicles, sometimes within hours, or at the most within a few days of shedding. The number of points is never an exact indicator of a bull's age. A bull elk in his prime may weigh from 500 to 1,000 pounds and stand 4 to 5 feet tall at the shoulders. Sparring is an important factor in establishing rank before the rut. Rut is a term for the fall mating season. These lazy bouts are less serious and almost playful. Occasionally, like brothers in the backyard, tempers will flare. A yearling bull grows a single point or spike antler. 2-year-olds grow branch antlers, each bearing 3 to 5 tines. 3-year-olds, like these two bulls in the creek, will have 5 or 6 points. As a bull matures, his antlers regrow larger and longer every year until he passes his prime. As bellies get full, priorities change. These are the yearling bulls or spikes, the adolescents of the elk herd. As spring lengthens the days and pushes the snow back toward the mountains, new forage appears among the dry grasses. Some elk seem eager to begin spring migration. In their rush to get back to the mountains, they bust through rotting snowbanks, blocking their ancestral migration routes. Spring migration, as in fall, is almost invariably led by an experienced old cow. That is, if the bunch wants to be certain of going in the right direction. Elk are matriarchal herd animals. A big bull might drive them, but they are led by an elderly and wise cow. The old cows know the migratory routes, the choicest meadows, the salt licks, the river crossings, and the best open water holes. These are all bull elk. The older bulls have already shed their antlers, usually during March and April. The smaller bulls shed theirs later, sometimes still carrying them through spring migration. There are 5,000 elk in this herd. Once on their way, it's amazing how quickly their migrational instincts return. Cows that were bred in the fall rut drift away to the forced hiding places or quiet open meadows to give birth to their calves. As the cows seek solitude, last year bull calves joined the other males in bachelor herds. Summer storms can be wild and violent. Rain and long hours of sunlight produce the high-protein grass that grows fat elk and heavy antlers. The growth of these new antlers is triggered by the increased hours of daylight in the spring. It's the same mechanism that brings the trees to bud. Elk display herding behavior that provides safety in numbers. Some watch while others graze, a sound defense against predators. If there is a threat, the herd will flee. Cow elk become reproductively active at 1.5 years of age and remain fertile throughout their 15 to 18-year life expectancy. Twins are rare, but elk have a fairly high reproductive potential. Elk are vocal animals. They communicate with a wide variety of sounds. A human ear may not detect the difference, but the bark of a cow can signal everything from curiosity to danger. The elk calf is born with a protective coloration like light and shadow sifting through the trees. Newborn calves are virtually scentless. Their first line of defense is to remain motionless. If disturbed or approached, a calf will sink into a characteristic hiding stance, legs tucked and head flattened. His spotted light brown coat will hide his 30 to 40 pound body wherever the cow caches him for the first few days. She will return to nurse him 6 or less times a day, protecting him with her absence. He might stand and stretch, but a bark of warning from his mother would drop him into a motionless, nearly invisible heap. It's a struggle to stand on newborn legs, but as the sun moves, his instinct tells him to seek the shadows. At this stage, his premolars are already erupting, enabling him to eat grass as young as 2 weeks. Even calves are capable of a wide range of calls, from soft bleating to a loud, lusty squeal. A person can almost imagine the emotion that fits each noise. After a week or so, he will be strong enough to begin grazing and join the other cows and calves in a nursery herd. Milk is still essential to growth, and the calves continue to nurse all summer. Summer feed includes sedges, grasses, and forbs in the meadows and clearings. Midday will find elk bedded in the cover of the force. As summer advances, they will feed more and more in the trees where the undergrowth is more succulent. Already, they are putting on body fat for winter. Cows are more than a source of nourishment. They must also transfer their knowledge and experience. Each day holds lessons to be learned, and sometimes reluctantly. Elk are ruminants. They have an efficient four-chamber stomach that slowly digests the meal the elk may have grabbed quickly out in the open meadow. While bedded down safely, the elk can regurgitate a mouthful of food and chew it more thoroughly. Antlers are formed of cartilage tissue called bone matrix, among the fastest multiplying of any mammalian tissue. The bone matrix contains blood vessels that carry nourishment to the growing antler and to the furry skin called velvet that covers the surface. If a growing antler is damaged or injured, a deformity may result. At the height of the season, total antler growth on a big bull like this can exceed 2 inches a day. Growth and hardening of these new antlers is not yet complete, but they still come in handy for those tricky, hard-to-reach spots. These bulls spend the summer readying for the rigors of rut. Growing antlers, storing fat, resting and waiting. These tactics are essential to the bull's success and survival in the fall mating season. Summer gives way to fall in the Rockies. Temperatures drop and the nights grow long and cool. Growth and hardening of the new antlers is complete. Blood vessels in the pedicles constrict and shut off the blood supply, and the velvet begins to dry. The bulls become restless and active. They will rub their antlers against trees and shrubs. The velvet then shreds and falls off. As the season progresses, cows enter their estrus, or heat, and bulls become driven by rut. This big 6-point could be a herd bull. He'd have little to fear in most confrontations, but he senses that he's no match for this monarch. This bull took on the monarch an hour ago and lost one of his antlers in the battle. A broken antler will push him into a more subordinate rank and will decrease his success during rut. Bugling, the stiff-legged gait, antler presentation, and herding are all rut behaviors. The bugle of the bull elk is a factor in establishing rank, challenging, and being challenged. Herd bulls use these elements of threat and dominance to intimidate younger, subordinate bulls and isolate them from his cows. This bull patrols his harem and, finding no receptive cows among his own, issues a challenge to his neighbors. A rival bull responds and runs to meet the challenge. Each tries to out-intimidate the other, thrashing the brush, presenting his antlers, bugling, and false charging. Most confrontations are settled in this manner. If every challenge ended in combat, injuries and fatalities would be high and detrimental to the herd. These bulls may be too evenly matched to resolve their dispute through intimidation. The frenzy of rut quickly burns a herd bull's fat reserves. They expend tremendous amounts of energy, feed sporadically, and often enter the winter in poor physical condition. But for now, this bull has won the right to sire a future generation of Rocky Mountain elk.